Hi, this is a day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Our devotion for today, August 4th, is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. Beginning with verse 1, they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes. Well, this is Gentile land. Verse 2, and when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs. So Jesus steps out of the boat, and immediately he's met by a man with an unclean spirit who lives among the dead. This man sounds like many people that we might know. Perhaps even it was us at one point. I mean, we sin, they sin. Sinners are the walking dead, right? They live among other people who are walking dead. Right? And so it's like being among the tombs, right? We continue with verse 3, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles into pieces. No one had strength enough to subdue him. Day and night among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. Well, this is certainly a rough way to experience life, wouldn't you say? The pain, the uncertainty, the fear, and the shame of all that he's experienced and lived through in his life so far. No one has understood him or been able to control him in the positive sense of the word. He's lonely, he's hurting, he's feeling a deep sense of hopelessness and despair, like many people do. Perhaps you do, or perhaps you once did. Verse 6 and following. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him, and crying out with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he was saying to himself, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Well, like many people, this man who lives among the dead wondered what Jesus wanted with him. Jesus addresses the unclean spirit in the man, telling him to come out of the man. Jesus even asks the unclean spirit for his name. So we know this, that unclean spirits have names. The Spirit tells Jesus his name is Legion, for there are many of them in this man. Verse 10 and following. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. And they begged him, saying, "Send us into the pigs, let us enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs. And the herd numbered about 2,000, and they rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. So Jesus is having this conversation with one of the demons who tells him that the name's Legion because there's so many inside the man. And they beg Jesus out of fear not to be sent out of the country where they're at. And they look around and they see a huge herd of pigs, about 2,000, and they ask Jesus to put them in the pigs. Can they go there? And Jesus, I'm sure, is thinking unclean spirits going into unclean pigs. Yeah, probably be fine. So he grants them their wish, and they enter into the pigs. But then the whole herd of 2,000 pigs, filled with these demons, decide to rush down a steep bank and into the sea, and they drown. I don't know if that's the end of what happened to the demons. I don't know if they're destroyed. But they're They're not mentioned anymore. They're gone. If they did die, apparently death was a better choice than being sent out of the country. So their escape was only temporary from the man that they had possessed and tormented. Verse 14 and following, then herdsmen fled and told it to the city and to the country, and people came to see what it was that had happened, and they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had had legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Well, here's the thing, my friends. This man is now healed and at peace, and this frightens the people as much as when the man had the demons in him. A lot of people are afraid of change, let alone big change. They're afraid of what they don't understand just as much as they are afraid of the things that they don't like and have lived with. Sometimes they'd rather live with the hell they have than to be set free. And so they see this man and they're now afraid because they used to have a workaround around this guy. They used to try to chain him up. He had been isolated to the to the graves of the dead. So they had him isolated. And sometimes they'd even had him bound, and they knew not to be around him, right? Will he snap? Will they have to now be nice to him? Will they have to get to know him and maybe share a meal with him? This is all scary stuff. They're not sure they want to do that. It reminds me of race relations in the 60s between blacks and whites here in this country, when we might have to have black people eat at the same table or the same counter or ride in the bus, not just in back, where we might have to actually associate with them. So it's very unsettling for everyone around the man, this man who is at peace now because he's been set free. This man who is healed and now wants to follow Jesus. They would have to treat him differently and with respect, and it scares them because they've spent so much time being afraid of him and building barriers to isolate and control him. This is often what happens to people who encounter Jesus and are set free, are healed. Their lives change, and all those around them see the change, and it scares them. Rather than want the man to change so that they also might change, they respond to this man in the same way they did before. In their fear, they want to isolate him. They want to stay away from this guy Jesus, healed, this guy who wants to follow Jesus. They want to keep their distance from him. And they don't want Jesus around because he's going to mess with their lives by healing them. Has this happened to you or anyone you know? What did you do? Or what would you advise this man's neighbors? What does Jesus teach us about our neighbors? Go in peace, serve the Lord.